Hello, all. My name is Erta the Wanderer, and I am come out the jungle today to speak with one of our most esteemed generals, the Great Lizard Wizard. How are we doing, Wizard?
Doing good. Glad to actually finally be recording again. It's been
I
a while.
know, life has been busy for both of us. Well, during the intermittent period, we had a whole bunch of changes. We have good news for all us hobbyists, we have good news on the points, and bad news on points changes, and in general, the meta's just been shaken up pretty heavily.
Uh, I at least like everything I've seen. Um, some stuff didn't go as far as I wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but even the things that hurt us, ultimately, I'm glad for.
Fair enough. I'm not sure if I share your optimism, but I can understand. Well, before we get into that, is there anything at the moment you've currently been working on?
Yeah, so at least this week, I did one. I haven't had as much free time to hobby as I would like,
Mm-hmm.
but I finally built an old Warscry Citadel. Uh,
Oh.
Last year's OFCC, I won, but they miscalculated the points, um, and they didn't find out until after the event that I had won it. When they were trying to post it to Best Coast pairings, and so as a consolation for not being able to or not taking the trophy from the person that got the trophy to give to me. They just gave me a Warscry Citadel. So that had literally been sitting like on my to-do list for over a year. So I finally built that. That was fun. Uh, Man, I am so glad that we don't that GW doesn't use the old plastic that they used on their old terrain kits
Uh huh.
because there was so much gap filling. But it's a
Yeah.
super cool kit. I really like it. It's much bigger than I thought it was for some reason, even though I've literally seen it in person. I didn't remember how much space it took up.
Yeah.
So that's all I've done for hobby.
Fair enough. I've just been doing batch painting. Despite everything, I've still been as busy as ever because I never got time
Nice.
off. So someday these guys will be done, but I'm both lazy and it's a big project.
Man, batch painting, at least to me, is soul draining. Like I'm literally better off doing like 5 model batches. Like I can't do the whole like here's my unit of 40s. I'm gonna do all of this stage. All like I just can't do it. It kills me.
Mm, I'm I'm better at it that way, but with no games in the foreseeable future, there's really been nothing to keep me going at it.
I know. I'm shocked how much game schedule was for me as a motivation for my hobbying.
Yeah, like deadlines are stressful, but they also make you do the work.
Yeah. Yep. And at least I mean, for me, especially with school and college and stuff, I like procrastinating and last minute cramming. Like that's when I do my best work, even for hobbying.
Mm-hmm.
Because then all the like, oh, I didn't get this eye right, like that goes out the window, and I just get it done. Like the eyes don't need to be right on 120 skinks; they just don't.
Yeah,
Um,
like I still don't paint pupils on my linemen. There's just
hmm,
no point. I just do Everland Sunset on their eyes to give them this like yellow glow, and then just say done. That's good.
fair, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've also in the news for hobby. We recently got a sneak peek at a is it Underworld's warband for the Seraphon?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Underworlds. I don't think
Yeah.
it's Warcry. Like I'm almost certain it's Underworlds.
No, when they just gave us rules to use current models in Warcry, that pretty much went out the window.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
everybody seems to be very excited for this new one, and I know you're a lover of the chameleons.
I am. I own 40 of the resin kit. Uh, so I might have to buy a bunch of plastic ones now.
And just take whatever else you get.
Yeah, just like, yeah, I mean, it's a single pose, but it's a really good one.
I think
Like,
you
I don't even know how I would work that out. Like, I don't think I could go to the bit shops to. I mean, maybe it's a group that comes with 3 chameleon skinks.
I think you'd do
Uh,
great as an alpha for a 10 man.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think he looks too feral, too much like just a chameleon that's holding a blowgun for my tastes. But he does
Hmm.
look nice.
Yep. I was kind of hoping for something a bit of a mix between what they made and the recent Blood Bowl skinks that came out.
Well, you're
Um,
alone in that. Everyone I talk to is so glad they aren't like that.
I I love them. Like
They are adorable.
the big eye. Like I just love them. They make me think of dragon skinks, like with the big eyes. Like I don't know. I love them. Uh,
Fair enough.
but I also really like this new one. Like I don't care that it looks like a chameleon with a blowgun. Uh,
I
I'm
mean,
okay with that.
for the first new model we've gotten in 8 years, it's really nice.
Yeah. Well, the skink Star Priest that came out with a Silver Tower, right?
Hmm? Did it?
The Star Priest, yeah.
Oh,
At least I thought it did.
maybe. I'm pretty sure
So
that.
the second new model in eight
Yeah,
years.
it's really the every time they come out with something new, it looks great. I really wish they'd do that for our older stuff. Yeah,
I know, right?
I
Just
was.
give me plastic Croxagore.
Mm, I like the resin ones once you actually get them together. I think they look neat. But yes, I want plastic ones just like everyone else.
I'm just tired of fitting the stupid overhead joints on the elbows for that one Croxagar. Like those are such a pain to
The thing is,
pin
my
and
kits, every single one of them was had to be bent, not just the overhead guy.
hmm,
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but yeah, it was a pain in the butt.
fine cast.
It's why everyone's really hoping for new Crocs in this Underworlds.
Yep, that's my other big hope.
Because the Blood Bowl people want a new one, we want a
Hmm.
new one, and I don't care. I'll buy 6 of them to have a full two 2 units of Croxigore,
Yeah,
or I'll buy three and just use them for moon hammers. I don't know,
yeah. I actually like that a lot.
but it's exciting.
It
I
is.
It's just a shame we had to wait until like almost last to get an Underworlds team.
Yeah. Well, and it also at least looks like there's going to be some sort of a skink magician, I'm guessing,
Hmm.
based on that staff that came out in the rumor engine like 6 or 7 months
Yeah,
ago.
I don't
I'm assuming that's part of this warband.
hmm I don't think we need another one because, like you said, the Star Priest is fairly new. But the
Hmm.
fact that we take 2 of them means now you can have 2 of them that
Yeah.
look different.
Well, and if it's a in terms of Sigmar rules, if it's a name one, like the named wizard for Maggotkin, that comes with his little
Hmm.
retinue, and for the
Well, we know.
Nine Eyes and all those things, like those are pretty decent units. So this might be something that actually gets added to your army,
Some of them
even if it is
definitely
just a
are.
Star Priest.
But yeah, I think though that the named hero is this chameleon skink because he has a name.
Hmm.
I think it's Ixel, or but yeah.
Oh, nice. Patui, the
Hmm.
old artifact, Slayer of Demons.
If he has that, we'll be sad because that means our old hero's dead, but also happy because we get it back.
Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty. Well, we all knew we were going to gush about that because it's so exciting. But on to the meat of today's episode. We have a lot of points changes to go over and what it means for each faction because
Yeah.
it has some minor effects that some people wish were heavier and some major effects that are either the best thing ever for that faction or kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
So, because we're Seraphon, let's actually start with Seraphon. Do you have any overarching thoughts on not just the point changes, but the news in general? I mean, we have Sylvaneth back as allies
Hmm.
now.
Yeah, that's confirmed, so that's great. Um, because until it was directly addressed, uh, they were briefly not eligible as allies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's cool. I've never been super excited about them. I think there's some potential for them, but I was never like, this is what's going to make Seraphim competitive for tournament scene is having
No.
Sylvaneth. Um,
It's a shame that the
so
2 allies we have are the worst order factions.
yeah, the two worst order factions. Uh, Yeah. So that was too bad, but I mean, I'm glad to have him back.
Hmm.
Uh,
And someday in the future, they might be good again.
yep. And they're not awful. Like being able to summon overgrown terrain is never a bad thing, but you could just summon a palisade instead.
Hmm.
So
And
that's
it's
always been my feeling on it.
200 points cheaper and doesn't require you to take a tax unit. That's terrible.
Yep.
Alright.
Yep.
Yeah. Well. I mean, it's fun, and
Uh-huh.
Kurnoff's work is as the heavy anvil that our army doesn't have.
Yeah, I mean, Kurnoths with scythes are legit scary against those high save models.
Hmm.
Um, like at the club, we have a rather good Sylvaneth player. Um, like he knows what he's doing. He's really studied. He's good. He has good instincts. He doesn't play that often,
Hmm.
but anyone who isn't ready to play against him, like he crushes. And he runs 2 units of 6 Kurnoths, and I watched a unit of 6 Kurnoths kill a unit of 9 Iron Guts in a single attack. Like they're no joke.
Well, they're Iron
Um,
Guts. That doesn't surprise me.
yeah, but like a 4+ save with 4 wounds, like
Six
that
up save.
that's a
Because size have Ren too.
exactly, exactly. But like that was shocking, especially since I've seen a unit of 9 or 12 Iron Guts go through a unit of 20 Mortek Guard. Um, like, yeah, that Kurnoth are the most promising thing from their book.
Hmm. And they look cool. Which
Hmm.
I've had a guy talking to me about what units to take, and I told him that Kurnoss are good, and he was happy because he's doing it mostly for hobby, and Kurnoss just look awesome.
Yep, and swords are also great. I prefer swords over scythes.
That seems to
Most
be
of
the
the people I know really
consensus.
like. Yep, but it's just for whatever reason locally, like there's a big scythe, uh, pro scythe group in our area for all of our Sylvaneth players. Um, I think scythes are better if you're playing against OBR, but I think everywhere else I would rather have swords.
Mm. I mean, they work great as a nutcracker, but
Hmm.
and if that's what your army needs, but Seraphon don't, then
Yeah,
it's a great thing to ally in. No, if you're taking Lord Croak, there's no reason to take scythes.
yeah, that's my feeling as well.
Alrighty, but we've also got some points changes. What do you want to address first?
Uh, well, I wish the Troglodon got more of a point decrease.
Yeah,
Uh,
both of the 20 points is
220's
not going
better.
to do that. Uh,
Uh, but like a Mutilith Vortex Beast, I want to say is 180.
mm,
Uh, so I feel like a Troglodon should be 200.
yeah, the problem is Troglodons just don't have a job in our army.
They cast Comet's Call for you when you want to cast other things with Croak. That's what they're there for.
Granted, but I don't think that's worth 220, do you?
No, but I think it becomes more worth it when you're like, I'm gonna make it my general. I'll give it nimble. I'll put a cloak on it. I'm not going to be in range turn 1 to cast with Croak anyways, so I'll move my Troglodon up, and then the next turn he's going to vector for me.
Hmm.
I think it's a viable alternative to having to take an Astroloth Bearer and a Bellwind Vortex, which is 180 points. So I really only look at it as like a 60-point cost increase to take a Troglodon instead, but you're giving up the bonus and the bonus to save and the extra spell. But the extra spell doesn't really matter because he's casting Comet for you anyways.
Hmm. I would
That's the way I view it. I wouldn't bring a Troglodon and an Astroloth Bearer and a Bellwind Vortex. I would replace those two things with a Troglodon.
mm,
Um,
I would just take a Star Priest and Geminids. I think they do better in the first turn with that.
oh, I agree. Yeah, yeah. And that's what I take for most of my list is 1 or 2 Star Priests, and then I take Geminids, and then
Yeah.
I take the standard Croak apparatus.
I
Um,
just have a feeling that for the next 3 years, Trog is just like last time. Trog's just going to keep getting cheaper, and people are still not going to use him.
If he gets to 200 points, I will absolutely use him. Um, yeah, for 200 points, I will totally bring a Troglodon.
Fair enough. Well, the other monster that got cheaper was the more was it? It was the more expensive version of the Carnosaur. Yeah.
Yeah, the Old Blood Carnosaur used to be 250.
Yeah, but it also went down to 220, didn't it?
Yeah, yep. So now the Scar Veteran's only 10 points cheaper, um,
Yeah,
which is good because they're roughly equivalent.
yeah.
Like
Like
the math on their buffs is pretty much identical.
right. It's just a plus. It's a +1 across the board. That's what a anything on a 6 is the equivalent to to hit is the equivalent of a +1.
Yep.
But
The
yeah.
reason you want to bring both is because they can stack plus one to hit. Because you can
Hmm.
end up with a +2 to hit, and then you can also get a pseudo another +1 to hit that fits within the rules by having a Scar Veteran.
Yeah,
Um,
I prefer doing Sunblood at that point, an Old Blood and Sunblood, because
I like all three.
I wish I could fit all three. That's not something you can do often, but yeah.
Well, I put them on foot. Like I take the cold one and I take the old blood on foot and the sunblood. Like I don't like the carnosaurs. Um,
Yeah, I really want to. And I know everyone really wants to because they're just so cool.
mhm.
But they're
The
slow,
issue is
and
they
they
carry
can't
critical
fly,
command ability. Yeah,
and they don't get lookout, sir. And they've got big
exactly. That's it.
faces,
They carry critical command abilities and they don't have lookouts.
and they have a 4
Um,
up save instead of a 3 up.
instead of a three. Yep.
It's weird that the foot hero one is harder to kill than the monster, but it's true. And
My assumption is they're killing the mount, and then it just falls on the hero.
yeah, but I think that a T-Rex that's armored and does battle with thunder lizards
Oh,
should
I
be
agree.
harder to kill. Or at the
Yeah,
very
like
least, we should be able to bump that save up to a 3 up
they
somehow.
eat bastillodons, right? And
Yeah,
those things apparently can't be rended, so
yeah. I mean, they finally
yeah,
got their Ren just for it not to matter anymore.
I know. Yeah, real fun.
Ah, well.
Uh,
But it's good that
but
he's cheaper. Those people who
uh-huh,
like to make missile builds will be happy because he's the one you want to use for missile builds.
agreed. Yep. Stegodon Skink Chief also got cheaper.
Woo!
It's now 10 points cheaper than the Engine of the Gods. So that's nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
still, yeah, you still were going to take him over an Engine of the Gods, but now he's cheaper.
yep. And Stegodons are pretty good in combat. Like I actually think the Stegodon's probably going to perform better for you in most cases than the Carnosaurs, uh, which I guess is kind of cool because they're more expensive, so they should.
It
Um,
depends, actually. If you take out their range damage, which you should, it doesn't matter. The Carnosaur averages about 4 to 6 points more,
hmm,
depending on how well you buff them both.
that's fair.
Mm. Base damage, yes, the Stegodon's going to do better, but the Carnosaur buffs better.
That's true. That's
Yep.
very true.
Yeah, all of our monsters got cheaper.
Yep.
And okay.
I actually like this change.
I do too. I just don't think it fixes any of their problems.
I agree. Salamanders are now 110 points
Oh man,
instead of 80s,
that
which
for
I
many
I
reasons,
also like that.
I think they should have gone up. I think that 110 is way too high. That's way too drastic a
I
change.
think it's 10 too high. I think there should have been 100. I think 100 for what they do is fair.
Okay, then I have a whole lot of other things that should also get more expensive, but that's besides the point.
I I agree. But of those things that I think should be more expensive, two of them became more expensive. Flamers and Pink Horrors.
Yeah, but
Uh,
yeah, we'll get to that at Zinch, but the percentage change is in a whole nother ballpark.
yeah, yeah.
It is insulting how much this is the biggest price increase on a second biggest price increase in all of AOS history. That is
Huh.
insane. Like
What was the biggest? I'm curious now.
the hag queen. She had a 50% increase
Huh.
instead of 36.4. It just seems like an unprecedented change because people don't know how to screen their units.
Yeah, I mean, 12-inch range is pretty easy to
Set.
play around.
Yeah, you just put
If
your
you
guys
can't,
3 inches in front of your other guys. That's
yep.
all it takes.
Well, in most places, make you deploy 9 inches from enemy territory, which means you've got 15 inches of your deployment space. So you can put stuff on the line that's a screen, and then be 3 inches from the table edge with your other stuff, and ta-da! Like, you've done it.
Or just
You don't even
realize
have.
that you're going to outdrop Seraphon and you have a whole turn to deal with that.
Yep.
And
I I understand why the overreaction happened. It's because there haven't been real tournaments.
yes,
Um,
and
they're basing it. Yeah,
as fun as TTS is, they don't have 5-round tournaments.
yep.
It's usually just 3, which means
It's not done in a single day.
right. It's mostly a
Uh,
grab bag type thing, and a
yep.
lot more casual people play it than
Yeah,
competitive
it's not
people.
the top players. Like, it's
Yep.
not the people that you saw at the top of Best Coast pairings for the previous 2 years, um, that
Yeah.
are attending them.
Yeah. Almost everybody, every competitive player I talk to, with a couple exceptions, looks at TTS and says, "It's fun, great to play games, not paying attention to it."
Yep. Yeah. Same. I mean, same.
Hmm.
For the circles I'm in, exactly the same.
Yeah. But yeah, that's probably why of the overreaction. Mostly, it's Facebook players being Facebook players.
Yeah, that's true.
But uh, I get it did need to be addressed because everyone was complaining about it, and this game is for everyone to have fun. It
Hmm.
really makes me sad that GW is still not very good at this.
So I think 100 points was fair, but I think we needed more point decreases than we got.
Oh,
Largely in our battalions. Like, I think all of our battalions need to be 10 to 20 points cheaper.
most of them. I
Um,
think the Sun Claw's pretty well costed, but the rest of them
that's true.
you don't get a whole lot.
And it eat like we have, in terms of what's competitive, like you have that mandatory croak apparatus that eats up a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
And so fitting in the tax in a battalion is rather difficult.
Yeah, I
Like,
just
I
think
value low drops a lot, and I've just like accepted it's never going to happen for Seraphon. It's not worth it.
yeah, I'm just playing the other direction. How high can I get my drops? Because
Hmm.
if I can't outdrop them to go first, I want to deploy so that their first turn doesn't hurt me.
Yeah, yeah,
But I am glad that our heroes did not go up in points because everybody's complaining about our hero costs. But the thing is,
yeah. I thought our skink Star Priest was going to go up in cost, and I
he
thought Croak was.
shouldn't. He should not. Our entire army is a house of card built on top of those cheap heroes that die really
Agreed.
easily. Do not make
Yep.
them more expensive, GW. This would be the worst thing for our army. It would take us from pretty good to absolutely awful if you hit them too hard.
Yep. Yeah, I would say we're still top of B tier right now. Um,
I put us lower mid A tier, but yeah.
See, I would say we're in A tier if it weren't for the fact that we have two really hard counters.
I mean,
Um,
everyone has really hard counters. I think we just are very, very diverse in our tactics.
we are, but we're glass hammers.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
like,
Everyone seems to forget that. I know
yeah,
salamanders are scary, but they're 110 for one guy.
yep.
Yeah, okay, there's 3 others, but they don't count.
They're,
Alrighty.
they're a blade of wounds.
Yeah, and in Coalesce, they're actually a bad thing to have, but
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. Well, those are the general thoughts I've got on Seraphon. Oh wait, no, Dread Saurian. That one went down and then right back up. Do you think it was
Yep.
broken at 420 points?
Nope.
Do you think it was okay at 420 points?
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I made a Thunder Lizards double Dreadsaurian list, and I was like, "Cool, I'll proxy this in and try it out." Like, I thought it was actually like it. I looked at it and I thought this has potential.
So was
Sort of
there
like
really
this.
any reason for everyone to complain that 420 was the end of the world?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Like,
I'm being a little vindictive here because
they're
that's been a long
still
time.
not as good as a Rogue Idol, and a Rogue Idol's 420. Uh, yeah.
Okay, well he's back up, so he's back into the I use him because I like him category, which is fair in this game.
Uh huh.
A lot of models in this game are I use them because I like them, and that's
Yep.
okay.
Especially for behemoths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Um, he's still playable. Like I think you could take him to a competitive event and go 3-2. I'd be shocked if he went 5-0. Like I would assume that there was something weird going on with the event. Like, wow, you got like perfect matchups. You were a dice god.
Hmm.
Your opponent had an aneurysm, like something. Um, but I wouldn't be like it could definitely happen. It just doesn't seem consistently doable to me.
Fair enough. Well, I think that takes care of Seraphon.
Uh
Do
huh.
you have
I
anything
would agree.
else? Yeah. So the next big one on the chopping block is Disciples of Zinch.
Yeah.
They hit them with the nerf hammer, and they were still oppressive. And
Uh
so
huh.
now let's see if the points will do it.
And I think this is now where it needs to be. So Flamers and Pink Horrors went up 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal for Pink Horrors because they come in the units of 10. Um, and so it went from being able to, it makes building a change host difficult now.
Does
Um,
it? Because
yeah,
like
because you
it's
can't bring max sized units of Pink Horrors and fit all the apparatus you want.
mm,
Um, Now it's one max sized unit of Pink Horrors and two small ones. Um,
I mean that's only six. That's only 80 points more.
Yeah, but it's enough to where, like setting up your hero support and everything else, like get your change loci and all that.
Mm,
Like it's an effective enough nerf. Um, Duplicitous host at the minimum is a lot less scary because of it.
fair enough. You were already talking about how flamers aren't going to be as scary, and now they're 160 for 3 instead of 140 for 3.
Yep.
Well, they didn't hit them nearly as hard as they hit salamanders. That's going to be a continuing point I bring up.
Yeah. Yeah. And they could do exactly the same thing with a greater range.
And yeah, they could move farther, they could fly, and they had greater range. They were
Yep.
in whole a much better unit, and they did yeah, and they didn't hit them as hard.
Yeah.
Ah, that's
Well, and that fly matters a lot because you can't use overgrown now.
right.
Um,
And,
so yeah,
and
like
screens are less
yeah,
effective. There's a lot of things that helps with, and they can still teleport
yep,
like we can. They're just as
yep.
fast. Oh, and do you know what I found out while doing research for this episode? Do you know who
Hmm.
else does just as much damage in shooting and didn't get hit as hard? Pink horrors.
Yep.
They do just as much damage in shooting as salamanders.
Yep. And they're wizards.
And there was, it requires them to be wizards, but yes. And they have way more wounds and way more bodies. And in just
Well,
general.
yeah, but them being like, yeah. It's they're just better.
Yep.
Um,
So, I'm going to keep bringing this up because I am firmly on the they hit the salamanders too hard category. I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record.
I think 20 points honestly would be justifiable.
Mm.
Um,
I, s- I
but
re-
that's because I don't like one trick armies in general.
that's fair.
Um, so I'm okay with it. But I also think the other things that are doing their one trick should also get hit. Um,
Yeah. I get.
on an aside, this isn't an army we need to talk about, but Alopex got cheaper. And I
Really?
love that model. So now it's worth running Sharks. That makes me happy. It's
Uh,
not meta related. I don't think Shark meta is going to be a thing. If it is,
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I
But
know
yeah.
all the IDK casual players are really happy about that because everyone likes sharks, despite the fact
Yeah.
that they have been really bad.
Uh huh. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the Chaos Chariot. You bring it because it's cool,
Or
not
the
because it's good.
Dreadsaurian. And
Yeah.
now it's
Yeah.
not bad, which it was. They
Yeah.
they just need to keep going that direction. They'll get
I
it
agree.
eventually. Just keep hitting those numbers. But yeah.
The other thing that impacted 3 armies was the Gaunt Summoner nerf.
Yes.
The
This
Book
I
of
think is a
Profane
much bigger
Secrets.
effect than the point changes.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of people spamming Gaunt Summoners for Change Host anyways, though.
Still,
Um,
now he isn't free.
just because you were upping your drops. But yeah, it went from summoning 10 pink horrors to 5,
Hmm?
which matters for Slaves to Darkness, Chaos Ascendant, and Disciples of Zinch.
Hmm?
Um,
It's
and it's an indirect nerf to the Summoners Guild as well. for Disciples of Zinch.
Yeah.
So
I like it. I think that the fact that they were twice as good as anything else, cutting their summoning ability in half, that's about fair. I think that they should have
yeah,
also gone down 10, 20 points because they're like, what, 230 for a Gaunt Summoner?
it's 220.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yep.
they would have been free if they hadn't cut them in half, but now that
Yep.
they're not, I think that what you get out of them, 100 points, 120 points, that seems about fair.
hmm I mean, I'm still going to bring Gaunt Summoners in my Slaves to Darkness when I play them.
That's fair,
Um,
especially because that Hell Portal's still a thing.
yeah, yeah. Um, and being able to teleport using the Mask of Darkness to teleport them and then summon, like it's still good. Like they didn't ruin Gaunt Summoners,
Yes.
but it was a needed nerf.
Yeah,
Um,
the Gaunt Summoner spell is still amazing. The 5 pink ores is still good. And
yep.
yeah, can you bring banners with them?
No, because that has to be a unit of 10.
Yeah.
That's why the nerf is such a big thing.
Then yeah.
Because you don't get down to one pink horror, battle shotgun to a 1, and bring back pink horrors and still have your blue horrors.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, that's why it needed to happen. It wasn't just the splitting, it was the fact that you can't bring the banner and musician and all that.
Fair enough.
And they're not a wizard unit. You're not adding a spell to your army.
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
Which
Like the bodies matter a lot, but honestly, the unit size nerf mattered more. Um, which I think that was a better way to do it than to increase the cost of the Gaunt Summoner. Because generally, instead of nerfing a thing's ability like that, because pink horrors don't come in units of 5.
yeah, but
And
making him more expensive just would be unviable because he's already 220. If you raised his points by the equivalent amount, which is 100, he'd be 320. That's
he's a 2-spell
insane.
wizard. I would pay 300 points for that if it summoned a 10-man unit of pink horrors.
That's still hard to fit in anything, considering you have to fit
That's
battle
true.
line and your other heroes because Zinch needs their heroes.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, you'd only ever take one.
Yes, exactly. You would take one. Like he's your general in a Gaunt Summoners or a Summoners Pact. He would be your general for like Ritualist for Slaves to Darkness. But yeah, no, I would pay that if he could summon 10, because of how important that banner is,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's a wizard. Like you just straight up add because it happens in your first hero phase or your hero phase once per game when you use that book. Like you bring them in and you can immediately cast with them. Like that's great, especially if you're doing things that need X number of spells or whatever.
Fair enough. We'll get more into what all this means in the meta at the end, but I think that covers the points and tweak changes, yeah?
Yeah, that's pretty much everything for Dot.
Let's see. Next on the docket is the resident boogeyman, OBR.
Yeah.
Ah, poor OBR. That's
You know,
unfortunate.
I think they're going to be just fine.
I agree, but I don't think they should have replaced Petrifix at least with a completely useless ability. That's just sad.
You mean you don't think re-rolling ones to save
On a unit that
isn't
rerolls
useful
all
in an
saves.
army that can re-roll all saves?
I mean, that is a oops moment. GW, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I think what they should have done uh, is make it so that like you can use the counter attack ability that OBR can use, even if you weren't charged. I think that's what they should have done for Petrifex Elite.
Yeah.
But that's a whole aside.
I mean,
I'm glad. Like, screw you, Petrifex Elite. I hate you.
Uh,
Yay, Mortis Praetorian. You're the new Petrifex Elite.
pretty much.
Like-
It always was the better version of it. Now people will just play it.
Yep. Well, I would still say it's a nerf because beforehand, killing Catacross didn't remove +1 save to the entire army. So if you have the ability to snipe him, like
I mean, good luck.
Disciples of Zinch,
Catacross
Caradron
is a
Overlords,
tough
or
nut.
I've watched him get killed in a single turn a number of times at my
I
clubhouse.
mean, yes, everything can, but it's not easy, especially if you don't let them.
There's some things where it's pretty darn hard to not let them and be able to win the game.
Granted, an
Because
OBR
like
already has
you
winning
have to
issues.
reach objectives.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Um,
Still,
so yeah, like it's a nerf. It's not a huge nerf. I think Mortis Praetorian were cooler than Petrifex Elite, anyways.
and you have an excuse to
Um,
use Catacross, which is one of their best models of the last 10 years.
yeah, it's amazing. Uh, there were some point shifts between like basically all their battle line. Those were all needed. They were good. Didn't change a whole lot. Didn't really shift a whole lot of list.
Uh-huh. I
Um,
mean, the main change is the 4+ rerolling save now.
yep.
We're going to see a lot more less harvesters and a lot more catapults,
Yes.
which is actually
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you need harvesters anymore with Mortis Praetorian, because you bring that and Archeon and you're bringing back 6. Then you can bring like a Bone Shaper and you're bringing back 6 to everything, 9 to one other thing. You don't need a harvester.
Right.
Nothing's reasonably going to kill off blocks of 20 or 30 of them. You don't need a harvester.
Yeah. Instead, you're just going to see a lot of catapults, and that's not good news for us.
Well, so part of the reason I think you also might start seeing more catapults is Foot OBR got some nerfs, and a couple other things for shooting ended up with some buffs, specifically KO.
Yeah.
So catapults are going to be much more useful simply because of that.
Right.
Like they now need shooting more than they did before.
And it's really good at taking out 5-wound heroes, which are everywhere now.
Yep. And it's also good against Seraphon, which Seraphon has a pretty good matchup against OBR.
House of
Like,
Cards, built on
yep,
heroes. If they
yep.
die,
Yeah, so I expect to see catapults, like 4 catapult list, will not be surprised to see it.
But yeah, not a whole lot more to say about them. I expect to see more horses, but that's about it.
Which is cool. They're like the horses are my favorite part for sure.
Yeah, any nerf or change that makes you use the fun models in your army is a good change.
Agreed. Lumineth Realm Lords got a couple things. The only things that really mattered were, one, they cleaned up language, which is good. They removed ambiguity. I wasn't misreading it anyways, so it didn't really impact my view of Lumineth Realm Lords. But specifically, they cleaned up Twin Stones to confirm that, yep, it starts out with 2 charges, basically. And Sanctum of Amentek got defined more strictly, and it is nerfed as a result.
Right, you can't buff units of 10 anymore, can it?
If you can fit them, you can, and I haven't played around with it enough to know whether or not you can or can't. I'm suspecting that you can't. So basically, it's only used for your casting heroes.
Which was what it was probably meant to do already.
Yes, I agree. So now you put like your Cath Collars and other things inside of them.
Yep. Yeah, it's no real changes. Lumineth hasn't even come out yet, so
Exactly. Yep.
mostly just
And their
cleaning up
bows are what
language
are
there.
scary anyways, so who
Yep.
cares?
Not necessarily because of damage output, but because they can take out all the support. Again,
Yeah.
Lumineth is
Yep.
going to be tough for us.
Yeah. But if they can't kill Croak, I feel like we'll do okay.
Yeah. It's mostly who can snipe who first, and I think Lumineth has lower drops is the thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I'm not expecting my skink heroes to be alive unless I put them like really, really far back. But I also don't think they're going to kill Croak with Sarsguard and everything else that's going on.
True. It is going to make
so-
Sarsguard more necessary.
Yeah. Yep. But KO.
Yeah. Everyone.
Like KO's always, in my opinion, been sort of a dark horse army since their book came out.
Mm-hmm.
They were real close to being the standard counter meta play to the top armies, and now I think they're there. Like you can pretty reliably build a list that's 2 drops by fitting 2 battalions now, just because everything got so much cheaper.
Like 30 points almost all off all the ships. That was really nice.
Yep, and their battalions got cheaper. Barrack Zilfin was, and so the Barrack Zilfin thing is kind of annoying because the Barrack Zilfin rule reads that a ship can make a normal move like once per game during your hero phase. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
redeploy.
And the fly high is now a move that counts for
Correct. They said fly high counts for that. The problem is that fly high does not count as a normal move for move rules. So there's like a language contradiction that just innately bothers me because they don't understand the transitive property. But I think it's good for Barrack Zilfin. Like I think that's a rule that should have been there. I think it should have said make a normal move or use fly high.
Yeah.
I'm just annoyed that they didn't clarify the language to be that, because now you have to argue, no, it's not a normal move. You can just use it, even though it says it, and it's stupid.
Still,
But
it
the
fixed
rule
the
itself is
overarching
good.
problem, so we'll give them a B+ for that.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
exactly.
perfect. It was a needed change, and everyone says KO is the big winner of this, and I can see why.
Yeah, there's a guy up in my club who just got into Age of Sigmar. He's a long-time 40K player, played in a bunch of tournaments, done well at them at a national level. He started playing Age of Sigmar. He chose KO. He's just like, I'm looking for an army that people aren't expecting. And I was like, oh, definitely KO. And he looked at them. He liked their look. He started building lists. He's been running a 2-drop KO. I haven't got to play him yet, but I probably will in the near future. But I haven't seen him lose yet. Like, just he killed Catacross in a single turn. Like, he's turning our OBR player inside out. Like, he's just he hasn't had any difficulty against any of the armies that he's gone up against. They're solid, and he's not even running the standard like spell in the bottle, warp lightning vortex, hello fish, here's a barrel type list. He's yeah. So yeah, they're good. The changes were good for them.
Yep. It does make me wonder. At first, when I was looking through all these changes, I saw that all the really big shooting stuff was getting hit. And I thought, oh, they're taking steps to address the shooting meta. And then everything in KO just dropped through the floor. So not sure exactly what they're doing.
I don't think KO is going to be a problem because there's other Alpha Strike. Like, Disciples of Zinch is just going to beat KO. And Disciples of Zinch are everywhere.
I'd be more worried about Eels, but yeah.
Yeah, and then the other Alpha Strike combat armies that are off table, those are going to be a problem as well. KO's buffs are actually part of the reason as well that I currently much prefer Chameleon Skinks over Salamanders. Because I don't want to put Salamanders on the table to get shut off. I'd much rather take Chameleon Skinks.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, overall, we're going to have to keep an eye out for them.
Yep.
They do our old teleporting trick now.
But man, are we going to get some value out of Geminids against KO.
Oh my.
Like, oh, what all do you have in that boat? All of it's taking D3 mortal wounds.
Yep, and our skinks are fast enough to wrap them if you need to take.
Correct.
So, you
gotta one-shot it though, because otherwise they are just gonna fly high. But yeah, no, like we have enough bodies to wrap them.
But yeah.
Yeah. If you can fully zone them, if you can soak the table enough, for sure.
Well, don't they lose fly high if they take enough wounds?
Yeah, I think it's at half wounds they lose fly high.
Yeah,
but I mean they've got Admiral and they've got engine riggers and stuff, so they're healing and their engine work. So chances are it's healing 2d3 a turn.
Yep. So I like the matchup with KO. We have good solid counterplay against them.
They will kill Croak though.
Oh,
like
easily.
Any decent KO player, Croak's dead turn 1.
Like half an army of shooting going into anybody's going to kill them.
Yep. Yeah.
Hence why they
so
killed Catacross.
Expect Croak to be dead. The good news is, though, I feel like in that matchup, they're not going to kill much else outside of Croak. Like, you can either battle shock my skink blobs or you can kill Croak, and you're going to have to choose.
Yep.
So that's at least a pretty comfortable
because you're using Thunderers, you're too close to get away.
Yes, exactly.
So take your shot, but be careful.
Yep.
All right. After KO, we've got Uryx.
Yeah. The biggest hit to Oryx actually was just from the regular GHB. They're
Uh,
such a command point hungry army
yeah, the loss of
that
Aether
losing
Quartz.
Aether Quartz. Yep.
Yeah, I did have Oryx put at what like tied for best army in the game if you ignore the broken one
Mm,
because they are just so efficient at getting damage where they need to be and they're durable on top of that.
yeah.
Like any army that can be a 2/2 2/2 minus 1 and 2 damage as your standard profile
Yeah.
on everybody and also
Yep.
move 16 inches is one of the
Yeah.
best armies in the game. With Aether Quartz, that's a lot less possible.
Agreed.
They're
Yep.
they're
Now
still
I
good.
actually so Ardfist used to be the thing where like you bring back your Ard boys.
Hmm.
But now because of the loss of Aether Quartz, um, Iron Fist, where you get to use the free movement command ability without spending a command point for that leader of your whatever unit you designate, like that's just better now.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so expect to maybe see some brutes and gore gruntas instead of just Ard boys.
Well, mostly
Um,
Gargruntas. Roots are still terrible.
yeah, because they're movement and base size
Hmm.
issues.
I mean, if you want something that's a heavy run thing, just go Big Wah because it's better, and then use the big spear guys.
Yeah, yeah, the spear chuckers,
Oh, those
or
guys scare me.
better yet, go Dakfoot bone splitters
Uh
and
huh.
just ignore all the save after saves and everything else.
Which, yeah, that's still pretty good. But yeah,
Uh,
they've still got lots of options. They're still the best melee army in the game.
yep. Rogue Idols, however, now 420 points.
Was it?
Uh,
I've never encountered a rogue idol because they're a Forge World model. Was that necessary?
yes. Okay, so one of the best lists was the dual Rogue Idol super buff.
Mm-hmm.
So you would take like your War Docs, your War Chances, your Maniac, and you would put all the buffs on them. You'd make them move 36 inches. That have,
Because they can
yeah,
do that.
yeah, that have the 2+ save and a buttload of attacks. And they would just massacre everything. And each Rogue Idol was giving a buff of +1 to casting to all those casters who were near them. So
Mm-hmm.
they all had a +2. So it was pretty easy to go off. 36-inch movement. So you could put the casters far enough back that your opponent couldn't unbind. Double Rogue Idol was a thing.
Huh.
Um,
Yeah, that sounds
Especially
way,
in
way
Dockfoot,
better.
where they couldn't get saves or Rindabation or save after saves. Like,
Hmm.
it was just double Rogue Idol was legit.
That sounds way better than
Um,
Dread Saurian. Why aren't they at 500 points?
I know, right? So yeah,
Vindicated.
they could have gone up more, but because they also buffed like or increased the cost for two of the wizards for it, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's fine.
Okay.
Now instead of double Rogue Idol, I think you're more likely to see Rogue Idol, um, which is good. Like I'd rather instead of an army be like three minimum sized battle line, a bunch of wizards, rogue idols, and some endless spells. I'd rather see one rogue idol, bigger, buffier battle line.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
While we are on destruction,
Uh huh.
the Gits got some loving in the new White Dwarf. Specifically,
Yeah.
we're going to have to actually start looking out for Squigalanch in tournaments now.
Yeah. So they got a new sub faction similar to how other armies got them in Wrath of the Everchosen. But they got Jaws of Mork, which has some pretty solid allegiance abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you can just straight up re-roll the movement for Squigs, which is easily Squig's biggest weakness,
Yeah,
is that
they
when
always
running
took
them, you might
Squigalanch.
only move 3 inches.
Yeah,
Uh,
everyone always took Squigalanch, which is why that list is called that, because that let you do that. And now this
yeah,
sub-faction
yeah,
just, you don't even have to take the battalion.
yep, which is super awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they got a new command ability, which is like Boulder Head, but for Mangler Squigs. It's useful for when people were specifically targeting to you at middle health, which I actually saw happen an awful lot in our play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with the clubhouse and tournaments that I go to, like it was just people knew it and they would do it. So it's useful to prevent that. But I don't feel like it's going to be a priority for where you want to put your command points, especially if you're bringing Squig heroes.
Mm.
And you can reroll failed battle shock test. for anything wholly within 12 of your general. That's pretty good for Gloomspike gets.
Yep,
The
because
big weakness of Squigs is that they are not close to your Loon Shrine because they're cavalry, and so frequently they're in enemy territory. So being able to reroll battle shocks for an army that has battle shock problems, that's pretty useful. Like having 3 flee instead of 6 to 8 flee can be huge. Um, yeah, so like solid.
I do hope they
They're
make
just
it
good.
permanent because in White Dwarf it can go away if they don't support it in the future projects.
Correct. Next GHB, if it hopefully will continue to
Hmm.
support it.
But this is a
Um,
great way to support a badly needed sub faction.
yeah. Well, and they got the other special thing is at the start of the combat phase, they can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the artifact for their faction artifact, and then until the next hero phase, you get to add one to all hit rolls for melee weapons, um, by that bearer, which is pretty good for a Mangler Squig. Like Mangler Squigs, um, they can actually do some damage now. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not bad. Just a +1 to hit
Yeah,
artifact.
I don't think it makes up for losing realm artifacts for them, or for that matter,
No,
more than 3 endless
because
spells.
the cloak from Ugu, uh,
The doppelganger cloak.
Doppelganger. There we go. Yeah, on a Mangler Squig was hilarious,
Hmm.
especially since you could take the command trait that let them retreat after
Yes,
they fought, so
yes,
you
yes,
could go
yes.
like 3 or 4 turns without them ever getting hit. It was dumb.
Yeah, I didn't think that made them horribly broken. It was a lot of fun, and
No,
it's a
no,
shame.
no.
Gix
But
was
you're
the
not going to be
worst hit,
taking it. Yeah, yep.
but yeah, still, it's going to be a lot of fun to finally see Squigs on the table. Everyone loves them.
Yes. One of my best friends is going to be super excited about this.
Hmm. All right.
And then their battalion is pretty good too.
Yes, the one that gives double damage on bite attacks on the charge. That's actually pretty scary.
Yeah, +1 damage. That's real. Like that's something to consider, and it's pretty easy to build. It's what is it? Uh
I
where
think it's
is
just a
it?
mangler in like three groups of any of the above.
Yeah, it's 0 to 1 Mangler Squigs, and then 2 to 3 um Squig Hoppers or Boingrat Bounders.
Yeah, so anything fits in this. If you're running squigs, you don't have to try and make this battalion. It just works.
What I was really hoping is that it would be a little bit bigger, like include Squig Herd, so that you could get closer to a 1 drop. Um,
Hmm. I still
but
think
yeah.
that has like 80% of your army in it.
Hmm. Um, but like I feel like this army is going to be even more command point hungry. Um, so like definitely bring fungoids, fish for those extra command points.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like all that stuff. Just because you want to be using the loon boss on squig command ability as much as you can. Like there's a bunch of command abilities you want to use with this army. And now that Aether Quartz is gone, uh, like I think it's definitely viable, but I don't think they're going to be an Alpha Strike army. They're obviously still going to outdrop us, but
Yeah,
I
well,
think they're
everything but
playable.
cities outdrops us, and cities have
Yeah.
the time.
Yep.
Let's see. Last army we need to talk about is Slaves to Darkness. Specifically, all their guys in heavy armor got cheaper.
Yeah, and Chaos Ascendant. In addition to the Gaunt Summoner nerf, the Chaos Ascendant, which is a new Chaos subfaction with Wrath of the Everchosen,
Hmm.
they can only summon 5 pink cores with their Chaos Ascendant ability, where you have
Yeah.
to roll 3 dice, get a 10+. So like that got double hit, which was like Chaos Ascendant. If you were running a bunch of Gaunt Summoners, you could summon like,
Over 1,000 wounds of pink horrors.
yeah, over the course of a game. Like it was pretty crazy. Um,
And
so
they
glad
thought,
that got nerfed.
yep. Wait, let's see.
But yeah, Slaves to Darkness. Marauders got 40 points more expensive. They went from 120 to
Still
160
doesn't
per
matter. They're
20.
the best thing in that book.
Agreed, but it's a huge nerf to Slaves to Darkness.
And
because Slaves to Darkness doesn't have a lot of great things, if we're being honest.
yes and no, but yeah. I think it does show that GW at least is starting to see their problem with Hordes versus Elite, or they
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
or they don't at all, and are just listening to the people talk and complain.
I think it's the fact that you can, like, you're guaranteed roughly 5-inch charge
You're
with
guaranteed an 8-inch charge with Marauders.
well, yeah, because you turn the 1 to a 6 and then you give them a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so they're crazy. They're just good.
They are
And they get the rend and they get the plus to hit.
and there's so many of them, and they buff well. Especially seeing
Yep,
you can ally them into Khorne, which really loves Marauders.
yep. Or Slanesh, where 6s explode.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, that was a decent nerf. But my favorite things from Slaves to Darkness, Chaos Knights and the Chaos Lord on Kakadrak and Varangard all got cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
meaningfully cheaper. Uh,
Which is great because everyone likes them because they're the new models that look cool. Again, GW making
Agreed.
changes that let you use the cool stuff. Good job.
Well, and before the General Handbook, I think the Kakadrak specifically was easily worth the 250 points he cost
Mm-hmm.
because you could take the Rune Blade as an artifact and put it on his axe. So you had a 5 attack, 3 and 3, rend 3, 2 damage axe that healed you if it killed something.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you can't give that axe rend 3, yeah, he needed to go down in points. I don't know if that's why they did it, but it definitely needed that after you lost the ability to give him the rune weapon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Varangard are still very expensive and mostly vanity pieces, but
They can work in a empty throne, like one of the other Wrath of the Everchosen.
yes,
Um,
I'm fairly sure they can. But one, you have to buy and paint like 12 of them,
yes. Yep.
and that's not what anyone wants to do. And two, it's going to
It's
be
only
and
$1,200.
oh Lord, yeah, they're going to be a very niche army.
Yep. Honestly, what I would have liked more for Varangard is for Varangard to have stayed at their point level and then got buffed. And that's just for monetary reasons. If a unit
Yes,
costs $100, it needs to be a decent percentage of your army. um,
agreed.
so that's what I would have rathered. But I mean, I'll take it. Like, I might buy some Varangard now.
Mm-hmm.
I just can never decide what weapons to give them. So I haven't bothered yet.
That's fair. Oh, that's right. You're a
uh,
chaos player. So, last thing on the docket that it isn't written down here, but Blight Kings got cheaper. What's your opinion?
yeah. Okay, so I really like Magickin.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, People don't give them the respect they deserve in general. Um, they're one of those armies that's so close to being really good, which is shocking considering how old their book is. Like
Mm-hmm.
the first book of second edition, like that was the first book written when they knew second edition was going
Yeah.
to be second edition.
I'm not sure I agree with you, but I can see where you're going.
They talked about it on one of the Stormcast podcasts. Like Magickin was the first book they wrote
Oh no,
once they had
that's not what I meant.
finalized.
Yes, that's very
Okay.
much the first. The thing is, you said they're so close to being good, and I say that they were tied for us in our old book for worst army in the game for a while. I'm hoping.
Yeah, but anything that you can give -3 to hit in shooting in a shooting meta
Oh,
um,
that's true.
is good. Um, the place where they struggle is their damage output, and the thing that's best at doing damage is Blight Kings in a Blight Cyst.
Mm-hmm.
And Blight Cyst got cheaper, and Blight Kings got cheaper.
Yeah, a lot of the
And
battalions got cheaper.
yep, and Puscoil Blight Lords got cheaper. Plague Bearers got cheaper. The thing is you can build Magickin with demons to be a 1-drop list with Taliban that's bringing back D3 Plague Bearers a turn, and you can make them -3 to hit and shooting, rerolling 6s to hit, rerolling 6s to wound when the enemy attacks you.
Yeah.
So they can be unbelievably resilient, and then you stack that with like some Lords of Plagues to just throw mortal wounds table wide, and Rodigus to throw some mortal wounds table wide. Like they've got all the tools they need. They were just too expensive to fit everything. Um,
And now they've gotten a lot cheaper. Do you think?
they've gotten a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Do you think Blight Kings at their current points are broken?
No, but
No.
I think they're worth it now.
Yeah.
Like I brought, so whenever I teach people how to play Age of Sigmar, I play my Maggotkin.
Oh, okay.
So I play them a decent amount. Like it's probably my third most played army, um, just because you can build an army that lets them experience multiple different phases of the game to play against, and they're not oppressive. But if
Mm.
you know what you're doing and your opponent doesn't, you're going to give them a rough game. Um, yeah, I like Maggotkin. Um,
It's
I
good to see
think
that these old armies, both Gits and them, are doing better.
the main issue with Maggotkin now, because I think they've truly fixed the points. Like I think their points are pretty much where they need to be. The main issue is their magic phase doesn't matter because they're not going to cast something that isn't going to be unbound.
Mm.
In this current meta, like Seraphon, nope. Like you got to roll a 12 and they got to roll a 5, um, basically, in order to reasonably get your magic off. It's absurd. Um, it's not quite that extreme, but it might as well be. Disciples of Tzeentch, you're not getting your spells off. Uh, Same for OBR, Legions of Nagash. Like you
Skaven.
just can't reliably get your spells off, and everything that's good for the most part goes off on a 7. Like they've got a couple spells that go off on 5s that are pretty solid, but those are just going to get unbound anyway, so it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
because they're not going to save them. Like that's when they're going to use their unbinds because they don't have to save them because you're not going to get your 7-ups.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good time to start talking about what do you think's changed since the General's Handbook? What do you think's going? Who do you think is going to top the meta, or who do you think got hit way too hard?
So I think the army that went up the most in terms of its power level was KO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think KO's going to go 5-0 at a lot of big events, but I expect them to go 5-0 at enough.
Yep. They're at least contenders.
Yep. I don't think Disciples of Tzeentch is a shoe-in now. Like it used to be, if you were a good regional player and you were playing Disciples of Tzeentch, you shouldn't expect to lose a game that isn't against another Disciples of Tzeentch army. Like if your opponent wasn't significantly better than you, you were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Unless dice, like dice can always happen. That's not the case anymore. Like Disciples of Tzeentch is still very strong. I think they might still be the best army in the game, but they're not autopilot. They got just enough points increases to where the objective game got that much harder for them.
Fair enough.
The standard like drop 60 pink cores in your face that you cannot get around and cannot retreat from, that doesn't fit anymore. So that's good. Like,
Right. I still think that's
yeah.
going to get heavy play, but you're right.
Yeah. So that I'm glad about, especially since like KO and Seraphon are actually two of their harder matchups. And both of those things have access to either Fly High or Lords of Space in time.
Provided you're
So
playing Seraphon right.
correct, yeah. Like even if you're playing Saurus, you should be Starborn.
They're so good in Starboard.
Yeah, Rin 2 clubs is way better than Rin 1 bite.
Or Rend 1 spears that drop out of the sky turn 1 and just charge you because they have re-rolling charges +1, +2 if you do it right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think DOT's still probably the best army in the game, but they don't have as big of a lead as they used to.
Mm-hmm.
If Salamanders stayed where they were and the other changes occurred, Seraphon had a chance to be the best army in the game.
Fair enough.
I think Seraphon's probably the very top of B or low A tier at the moment.
Yeah, I'd put them at the upper end of that, but yeah.
Just because I mean we're not S tier. Like
No, no, no.
we're not one of the top threes. Uh, the problem is there's some mid-ranged armies that have pretty darn good matchups against us.
Okay,
Um,
like who are you thinking?
I mean, even orcs. Orcs are going to outdrop us. They're going to be in our face.
Like I said, I
Uh,
considered orcs to be one of the best armies in the game.
I don't think they're S tier though. I
Not
think they're A
anymore. No,
tier.
not since Aether Probes
Um,
disappeared.
well, I didn't even like they were good, but part of what they needed was like their shaman spells and their warlock and like for Seraphon specifically, like when you're at a +2 to unbind, that's not hard to get around. Um, so
True.
I felt like their weaknesses were big enough that we were okay. Um,
Uh,
but like Cities of Sigmar is really rough for
yeah,
Seraphon.
yeah.
KO is really rough for Seraphon. Uh,
Well, but vice versa. We're really rough for each other.
it's true,
For
yeah.
both cities and KO. I think cities actually is going to have trouble with all the 8 objective battle plans out there now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think OBR is going to have a lot of trouble with 8 objective battle plans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially because of the number of armies with teleports accessible to them now. Like between KO, between Change Host, between Seraphon, between Slaves to Darkness, Beast of Chaos. There's a lot of teleports in Deep Striking where those 8 objective battle plans all of a sudden you can't leave them
Mm-hmm.
because you're just going to lose them. Um, yeah, so I think that's great. Like the battle plan changes. The only thing I don't like about them is how many of them are just straight up slugfest in the middle of the board. Like why have 6 objectives that are 12 inches from each other along the median lines?
Because a
Like
lot of players just like hitting each other, and GW noticed that.
yeah, that's fair, but like at that point don't even have battle plans. Just like play first blood.
You know, I think that should be a battle plan, just called First Blood,
uh
where you can win
but
by either killing the opponent's general or by ending with more points, not yeah, points off the table.
um so yeah, like I don't know exactly what's going to be ABC tier, but I think the KO changes are going to shift the meta a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
because they can be real low drop. They'll kill Teclis in a single turn. They'll kill Mortis Praetorian's Catacross in a single turn.
Again,
Like,
half of an army worth of shooting will kill anything in a single
yeah.
turn.
And they can
Kind of what
put
they do.
an entire army's worth of shooting in your face at 2 drops.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's going to shake the meta up a lot. I don't think they have what it takes to even beat like 6 Stonehorn list. Um, because they're just gonna like sure they'll kill 2 Stonehorns and then they'll get murdered. Um, so
Yeah.
oddly enough, KO's good against the really good armies, but they're kind of bad against the other ones.
That's been that way for a while, ever
Uh-huh.
since back when
Yeah.
Flesh Eater Courts came out. But I don't
Yep.
I don't think we have to worry as much about that as a lot of people. One, because we
No.
had a long history of learning to screen well, because all we
Uh-huh.
had was skinks and we had to survive. But we still have
We're used to
skinks,
playing with
and
those same tricks.
oh yeah, well
So
more than
like,
that, we're used to defending against those same tricks.
yeah.
Yep. Even if you don't want to play a skink list, you should probably bring 30 skinks in 10 men blocks.
Just for screens.
Yeah,
And for speed bumps.
and capturing and just they're cheap enough to be worth it.
Yeah.
Still
Well,
makes
in
me
8 inches, you can spin a command point, auto run them 6. Like having a 14-inch reach with 10 bodies, uh, that's solid,
hmm
especially in objective games.
even if they can no longer retreat in combat, which still
Yep.
makes me sad.
Man, Wary Fighter was my favorite thing about our
I
army.
know it was just so much fun, and I I don't know. I used to get like in very limited local tournaments. I used to get like consistently poor sportsmanship scores, not because of my behavior, but because I ran Stalingrad skinks. And people hate playing against Stalingrad skinks.
There was something incredibly fun the first time you're at a tournament and you're playing someone who like knows the game pretty well. They're like consistently going 4-1 or 5-0, and to win just because like you summoned, you lords of space and timed, you charged, you wary fighter, and it's just like how should like what do I do to stop you from getting 18 inches behind my front lines and onto this objective with 30 bodies?
Yeah,
Like,
it rewarded good play in a way that very
uh-huh,
few things do.
yes. Uh, I missed that, and I missed the look on my opponent's faces the first time they're like, "Okay, I understand what you were doing now." Like that was super rewarding. Uh, but yeah, back more onto topic. I don't think meta got shaken up a whole lot outside of KO, but I
No.
think KO knocked all the top armies down a peg. Like it closed the gap in terms of tournament. Like it's not going to help Oryx do any better against OBR, but OBR is not going to be as easy to go 5-0 with. DOT is not going to be as easy to go 5-0 with. Lumineth Realm Lords are going to they're still great, but they can't do 2 drops and they can't deal with that level of shooting. Um, like you don't even have to kill Techless; you can just kill all their archers.
Or all their
Yeah,
cap, depending on which way they go.
yep.
Alrighty. Is there anything else you want to discuss about the recent changes?
No, that was all my thoughts, as rambly as they are.
Aha, we do like to ramble. That's why I put it in all these descriptions, us rambling about stuff. Alrighty. Well, that covered most of it. Let's thank you today for talking with me, Lizard Wizard.
Yeah, I was happy to like actually we could get the time and match our schedule up. It had been too
Yep.
long.
Hopefully, this works out better in the future weeks.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. But regardless, the jungle is calling me home. You all have a good time out there, and let's hope we get some battles in.
Thanks for joining us.